So, good morning and happy Women's Day. I know it's celebrated in South Africa. I'm not sure if it's celebrated throughout the world today, but in honor of all the women in South Africa today, I'm wishing you a wonderful day, and I hope that you are spoilt rotten, because actually we deserve it. So the reason I am going live a bit later than normal is we had lots of technological difficulties this morning, and I did my talk, but I actually don't think that it was received. I certainly don't think it was broadcast. Hence, I'm doing the talk again. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to do on Women's Day, I was going to absolutely dazzle you with all sorts of research that's being done, facts and figures. And then I thought, well, that's quite a masculine way of looking at things. So instead of me Bobby dazzling you with facts and figures, instead I'm going to talk about a few words that are very relevant to women. If you have a look at the sports column in a newspaper, and I always have a bit of a rant about this, when you're looking at something like Wimbledon, when they're both men and women that are competing in the same tournament, you read about the men and all the results, and it's columns and columns and columns of it. And then, yeah, maybe you get two paragraphs at the end of it is the women's results. So it is a man's world, and what we need to look at is the reason why. So if we look at a definition of success in the world out there, in society out there, very often the definition of success is how much money I'm making, how much property I've got, how big my home is, what fancy cars I drive. So it's very much about the possessions that we have in life. And so where does this come from? Well, if we look at history, man's role, the man's role was as the hunter-gatherer. He was the provider. He used to go out and shoot the game to bring it home for his wife and family. And so if we look in today's world, what is being honored and respected as and seen as successful is what we have acquired, our possessions, what the hunter-gatherer has been able to provide. So it is our cars, our houses, how much money we're making, because that actually is in our biology. So I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that's where it came from. However, as women, we traditionally have been the nurturers of the family. We're raising our children, caring for each other, making sure that the beasts that our husbands bring home for us are cooked and there's enough food for everyone. So naturally, our role is one of nurture as opposed to acquire. And so my first little challenge that I want to throw out today is, what do you see as being successful? What do you need to do? How do you need to be seen as successful? And if we are changing our idea of what is successful to, as a mother, I've raised successful children. I have good relationships with them. I have good relationships with my husband or wife, as the case may be. I have good relationships with my friends. I'm a happy person. And so those kind of words, happiness, love, caring, nurturing, these are the words that I want to speak about today, because I do think that these are words we can aspire to make our lives more successful. So I'd like to start with a quote by an anonymous person saying, "Women are the mammoth reservoir of power and talent which has not yet been tapped." So let's make our presence felt out there in the world, in our lives, privately, professionally, whether we are at home or whether we are working and in the business world. Let's make our strength felt. So to start with, we have to be proud of the differentness between men and women. We need to be able to bring to the table our differentness, our different priorities, the way we see things, what we consider to be important. These we can add to the success that the men have already provided us with. So let's start with a few of the words that I'm wanting to speak about. And if we use the word woman, W-O-M-E-N, I'm going to take one word for each of those letters. So starting with W. As women, we usually are very warm. We help kind of put the oil on social situations. We make the effort with other people. We want people to feel welcome and comfortable, whether it is at home or whether it is in the business world. The O stands for ordinary. We are ordinary people. We don't have to try and be someone that we're not. We can just be who we are. So here I'm talking about the beautiful word of acceptance of who we are. Warts and all. None of us are perfect. The M in women stands for mentor. Whether we do it officially or incidentally, we are nurturing many people. We nurture our children and their friends. We nurture our grandchildren, our cousins, our husbands, our friends. That is what we've been put on this earth to do. And so nurturing is a very strong part of the identity of womanhood. The E stands for empathetic, which is different from sympathetic in that it's a more active word. Sympathetic means that I can understand where you are, but sometimes I'm going to actually get down into that dark place with you, and then I'm also going to be stuck there. Whereas empathy means I can feel with you, but I can still stand apart from you and throw you the lifeline and assist and help you. So in a professional environment of, as I am a life coach, a psychologist, any caring profession, we want to be empathetic, not necessarily sympathetic. And then the N for women stands for nurturing, which I've already spoken about. Okay, so let's put in some other beautiful words there. These are words we're wanting to aspire to. They are strengths, and we need to be working in our strengths and not be steamrolled into all trying to be men who are women who are men. We need to be women who are women, and proudly so. Bring that balance to our businesses, to our big corporates, to our lives, our private lives, our family lives. So the first word I want to use is authentic. It is exhausting trying to be someone that we are not. So we are fearfully and wonderfully made. So let's be completely authentic and proud of who we are and the differentness between us and men who also have their strengths. But let them have their strengths and let us have our strengths. The second, it's a set of two words which I'm finding more and more I'm using in coaching different people. And that is confidence with humility. So we need to know that we're really good at what we do, but we don't need to be arrogant with that. We don't have to try and prove it to the rest of the world. We need to have that quiet confidence that knows that we are chasing excellence, but within that, present it in a very humble way. And that characteristic of humility is so attractive. Okay, so confidence with humility. We're good at what we do, but we can be very humble within that. The third word that I want to put to you is compassion. More and more in the work I do, I realize we need to be very compassionate, not only with the other people in our office, in our family, with our friends, but we need self-compassion. We beat ourselves up, and women particularly are very good at beating ourselves up. We're never going to be good enough. What we're doing is never going to be fancy enough, perfect enough. What we need is to use compassion not only on others, but also with ourselves. We are so special, and we do such wonderful things in the world. So let's not beat ourselves up. Let's start treating ourselves with the compassion that we deserve. The next word that for me is very core when I think about women is our gentleness. You know, life can be very harsh. Life can be very competitive. Life can beat you around and bash you. So let's be gentle with ourselves and with other people. When we might want to go into judgment of someone about what they've done, let's maybe rather think about, well, I wonder what's led them to be in that place. And if we can see them with gentleness and understanding, we're much more likely to have a successful outcome or successful relationship. The other thing is that men and women have different strengths, and we need to embrace that. So Eleanor Roosevelt has a lovely quote about women being like a tea bag. You never know how strong they are until she gets into hot water. So life is about getting into hot water, whether you're man or woman. It's not all going to just be easy sailing. So let's make sure that when we are in a difficulty, that we use our strengths as women to solve the difficulty. We don't have to solve the difficulty as if we were a man. So we need to bring in our different strengths, many of the words that I'm discussing today. We also not only have different strengths, we have different priorities. And this comes from our genes, from the way that we were first designed as human beings. Men are the doers, as are the women, but the women we feel. Okay, we're a lot about emotion. Emotional intelligence ranks very high for us, and so that we can deal well with people, and so that a relationship is the best it can be. So our priorities and our strengths are different. And what we tend as women to choose being collaborative as opposed to being competitive. We can achieve far more by being and working together with rather than against. So let's harness that collaboration. In our businesses, let's help each other instead of pulling each other down. Let's pave the way to make sure that their business is as successful as mine. Likewise with our children. There doesn't need to be competition between, whose child is in the first team and whose isn't. My child might be in the first hockey team, but your child might be the outstanding artist. So let's look at collaboration rather than competition. The next word that I think is one that we need to aspire to is to have passion and enthusiasm in our lives. There is humdrum in our lives as there is in everybody's life, whether you are a working person or not, and that's a given. But let's be passionate and enthusiastic about our days, about what we're doing, about how we're doing it. And if our job might be quite mundane, how can we get the passion into it? Can we maybe care for others more? Can we maybe start building relationships at work? How can we make it better? How can we make ourselves better? Passion keeps us young. So for those women who are older like me, maybe we'll have a few less lines if we are living our life in our passion and with enthusiasm and excitement and joy. Okay, lovely soft words about women. We as women can also be like sponges, in that we can absorb a huge amount of stress and tension. And I'm not saying that men can't, but as women, we absorb a lot of stress and tension without necessarily anybody knowing that that's how we are acting or feeling. And then because we generally are emotive human beings, we can work much more easily through that hardship. So as a sponge draws in water, we can draw in a lot of anxiety and tension, and then we can work with it to release it. So that, I think, is one of our huge strengths as well. There's a difference in men and women as to what drives us. Men might be driven by money. We might be driven by relationships. Men might be driven by acquisitions. We might be driven by feelings. And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just different. But up until now, the strength of women has been very kind of cast to the one side. What I'm saying is, let's bring the strength of women to stand next to the strength of men. What a combination that will be. And lastly, I think one of the main soft words that I want to use in connection with women is love. Because we are more emotionally wired than men, we feel a lot of the emotions, and we can label them. The interesting fact about men and women and emotions is that men can't label the emotion, but according to research, they feel far more deeply than women do. How's that for an interesting bit of information? But generally, as women, we are emotional, we're feeling beings, and that is the way we negotiate our life. So let's not be embarrassed about them. Let's harness them to make them work for us. So that, for example, something that a man might not even see in the workplace or with his children, we do see, because we are emotional human beings, and then we can notice it, acknowledge it, and resolve the issue if we need to. So love for me is, if we can put love at the center of all that we do, privately and professionally, oh my word, what a wonderful, wonderful place this world would be. So for women, love is an important aspect of who we are. So here's two strong women. May we know them, may we be them, and may we raise them. So I challenge you today, on Women's Day, to go out and make a difference in the world. Today, on Women's Day, this week, this month, and this year, let us step up to the plate. Let us allow men to see and feel our differentness and realize it as a strength, not as a weakness. So happy Women's Day to all of you out there. And I would like to ask you just to watch the space. I may well do one more live video on women. And then after that, I'm going to do a series on peak performance. In other words, how to achieve the best you can, whether it be on the sports field, in the business world, or just as a person. So my next series will be about, being the very best that you can be. And so I would love you to join me watching that series of videos. And as always, I welcome your comments, your criticisms, your questions. So please, let's just carry on the conversation that started during the series I did on grief, and let's continue that conversation. Let's get out there and let's be strong. Thank you so much for watching this video with me. Thank you so much for your time.